Thank you very much. The last time I spoke to an audience that resembled this size was in St. Paul, Minnesota, where I was invited to speak to an audience of 10,000 women. I don't know if you can quite picture that. 10,000 women all at one time. Before going on, I was in my hotel pacing back and forth when a lady walked in. She looked at me. She said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm waiting to give a speech." She said, "Are you nervous?" I said, "No, I'm never nervous." She said, "Really? Then what are you doing in the ladies' room?" Now, being a psychologist, people usually walk up to me and say, "Are you really a psychologist? Say something in psychology." I received a letter the other day from a girl. She wrote me, "Dear Dr. Banks, I'm 19 years old. I stayed out till 2 o'clock in the morning last Saturday night. My mother objected. Did I do wrong?" I wrote back and said, "Try to remember." The most important thing you can ever learn in psychology is no matter what a person does, no matter what you, your friends, your family, no matter what any human being does, there is always a reason behind it. Of that you may be sure. There's no such thing, no matter how peculiar, of any human behavior without a reason. In Palestine, for example, there was an old man standing at the Wailing Wall crying. He said, "Oh, I want to go where my people are. I want to go where my people are." A man walked by, said, "What are you crying about? You're in Palestine. Where are your people?" He said, "In Miami Beach." You see, there is always a reason, isn't there? Of course, if you ever hope to understand another human being, if you ever hope to influence another human being, you must understand them in terms of his wants. What does he want? His reasons. Because unless you know that there is no such thing as human behavior without a reason, you can never understand what makes a person do what he does. Well, what do human beings want? What do you want? What do any of us want? Actually, ladies and gentlemen, the whole drama of life springs out of 4 basic wants. 4 things that make us all do what we do. Here they are in a nutshell. 1, I want to live. How long? Forever. Oh, you'll hear people say, when I'm 90, I don't care if I'm dead. And that's just the way you feel until you're 89. And that's why people buy Carter's Little Liver Pills. Have you heard of the woman who had been taking Carter's Little Liver Pills for over 20 years? And when she died, they had to beat her liver to death with a stick. Now let's wait till that spreads over to this section over here, shall we? Take such a thing even as a washing machine. Now, why do you think a woman buys a washing machine? You think she buys it because she wants to make clothes whiter? Oh, no. When the salesman says, "Madam, this machine will add 20 years to your life," just bring the machine right in, please. Just bring it right in. We all want to live and be healthy. And anyone who shows us how to do it better will always get our business. 2, I want a feeling of importance. Prestige, power, respect. We all want that. That's why we say, "Who do you think you're talking to?" And that's what makes people brag and show off. One girl was comparing a sweater she had bought with her friends. She said, "My sweater is 100% virgin wool." Her friend said, "Well, so what if mine's had little experience?" I once asked my students, "How many of you know where virgin wool comes from?" And one fellow said, "From the sheep that runs the fastest." Did you ever see a little boy who goes swimming or skating? He always says, "Mama, watch me." "Watch me, Mama." The mama can say, "Oh, you're wonderful, wonderful." And he loves that praise. And adults are just the same. Of course, we can't go around saying, "Everybody, please, watch me, watch me." Now we do it with our cars, clothes, furs. Why does every woman want a fur coat? Especially a mink coat. Now, skunk will keep you just as warm as mink. Says, no, I've got to have mink. Now listen, the only one who really needs a mink is a mink. He's got to have it. Now just give it a little thought. And you'll soon see there's really very little difference between infants and adults. Although one lady said to me, tell me, do infants have as much fun in infancy as adults do in adultery? The answer is no. Now, in connection with the feeling of importance, tell me, what is it that you say when you're introduced to someone for the first time? Do you say, how do you do? Well, if you do, they're going to forget you in just about 1/2 minute. What you should say, if you can, is, oh, Mr. Bunchnuck, well, I've heard so many nice things about you. Then he spends half the night wondering, what did you hear? And how can he find out what you've heard? Of course, don't say, I've heard so many things about you. Because if you do, he thinks, my God, maybe he knows. You've got to be a little tactful. It's the same when you're asked an embarrassing question. Don't say, it's none of your business. Be like the Irishman who said to the Jewish man, tell me, why do you Jews always answer a question with a question? He said, why shouldn't we? You know, I think this side is smarter than this side. The third want is, I want someone to love me. We all want to be loved. And every woman would like to marry and marry well. Of course, a woman doesn't want to marry any simpleton. She's waiting for a special simpleton. And many of them get them, too. I see you know who they are, don't you? If you want to see who are marvelous psychologists in business, just look at the perfume manufacturers. Now, they're really shrewd. They've analyzed what people want, they've analyzed the reasons, and they've labeled the product accordingly. Did you ever notice the names they give to women's perfumes? My Sin, Taboo, Unfinished Business. One of my students told me he expects to make a fortune on a new aftershave lotion for men, because it drives women crazy. It smells like money. Did you ever hear lovers speak? Promise me you'll love me forever. Promise me. What a thing to ask someone to promise. Would you plant a tree in your yard and then say, tree, promise me you'll bloom forever? Even though I nip you in the bud, promise me. One newlywed said to her husband, said, Herman, do you love me? He said, yes. Said, would you die for me? He said, no, mine is an undying love. Now, what would you say is the fourth thing that every human being wants that I haven't mentioned? Anybody, you can call it out. What's the fourth thing we want that I haven't mentioned? Money. The only reason you ever work for a piece of printed paper is because it gets you what you really want. Listen, Henry Ford, with all his money, never had a Cadillac. Well, he didn't want one. Security, if you have health, power, love, you'll be so secure you won't be able to budge. Security is getting these things. The fourth want, ladies and gentlemen, you'd be out of business tomorrow if it weren't for it. I want a little variety. Something new, different. That's why you're here tonight. You get tired of eating home every night. You want to change. One of the top psychological problems in industry is the problem of monotony, sameness, routine. We all want something new, different, change. Well, here are things that every human being wants. Yet not one of you sitting here tonight can ever hope to have complete fulfillment in all of them. Well, now that's impossible. We're all destined to be frustrated in some of these things. Someone you love may die. Your health may break. Business may go bankrupt. Here's a girl who wants a little variety, a little romance. What is she? She's a comptometer operator. All day long she must sit and compt. And you're going to be frustrated even though you be a multi-millionaire. May I protest right now against loveless marriages? If you marry someone for money only, without love, well, the best I can say is you will suffer in comfort. One married woman said to me, I'm suffering anyway, I may as well suffer in comfort. I used to do a great deal of marriage counseling, and it was always interesting to see how lucky men were in the game of love and marriage. Not women, men. A man, no matter how old he is or how homely he is, if he wants to marry or remarry, he doesn't have much trouble. But a woman, how old is she? What does she look like? Now, if a girl goes out with a homely fellow, what do people say? He's got character. On him it doesn't show, but he's got it. But if a fellow goes out with a homely girl, they say if Moses had seen her, there'd be another commandment. Of course, the important thing psychologically is not whether you're frustrated. That we must all be. The important thing, ladies and gentlemen, is what kind of adjustments do you make when life hands you a dirty deal? Now the curtain on the drama of life is about to go up. What kind of adjustments do you make? There's not too much success in adjustment in our country. And I'm about to give you the most shocking figures you will ever hear again as long as you live. Tomorrow morning, would you do something that you've never done before? As you pass by the first schoolyard in your neighborhood, would you stop, please, and count out 25 children on the playground? Any 25 you wish. Just be sure to count your own among them. Having done that, you may then say to yourself, out of these 25 children, 2 will be in a hospital for the insane before his or her life is finished. 4 more will be profoundly neurotic. 4 more deeply neurotic. 4 more mildly neurotic. And approximately 8 to 10 will be fairly normal. You see, your chances aren't too hot, are they? Well, now that depends. That depends on the kind of adjustments that you learn to make and that you teach your children to make. We're not born with our adjustments. We learn them. Here, let me give you a case. Here's a case of a woman whom you all know. I'll give you her name. This woman was in love, deeply in love, but her sweetheart jilted her, so she committed suicide. Her name? Lupe Velez. Remember? Carol Landis. Remember? Lupe Velez and Carol Landis were 2 movie stars who had fame, fortune, youth, beauty, things that a woman would give half a life to have. Yet when they lost their sweethearts, Lupe left a note. Dear Harold, there's nothing left for me anymore, so goodbye to you. I wish she had phoned me first. I'd have given her some good ideas. Now, I don't have to go back as far as Lupe Velez or Carol Landis. For those whose memories it doesn't jog, I'll go back just a few months to Bridget Bardot, who also attempted suicide. Did you know that Bridget Bardot and Lupe Velez and Carol Landis were all insane when they committed suicide or attempted suicide? Only the insane choose to die. A sane person wants to live. I am not speaking of those who commit suicide regularly. Now, of course, not every woman who loses a sweetheart kills herself. One woman says, why should I kill myself? I'll shoot him. And so she commits murder as a form of adjustment, which, by the way, adjusts him pretty permanently, too. There are some people who turn to liquor to wash away their troubles. Now, liquor will never wash away your troubles. It will only irrigate them a little bit. One man said to me, my father's a drunkard. He once read a sign, drink Canada dry. Well, I wish you'd explain it to this side here so we can go on. Probably the most fascinating year of my entire career was spent working on an alcoholic ward. I never saw these bits of human trash shoveled in the ward that a thought didn't go through my head. This piece of human garbage was once an infant in his mother's arms. This was once a little boy who played baseball on a schoolyard. Just look at him now. Does it surprise you to learn that the alcoholic actually hates liquor? Oh, yes, he does. He hates it. But he hates life more. He is so terrified to live, to face the problems, the realities, the frustrations of living, that he turns to that as his form of adjustment. There are some people who turn to insanity as a form of adjustment. Did you hear what I just said? I said that insanity is a form of adjustment. Nobody goes to sleep sane one night and wakes up cracked the next. Practically every person who goes insane wants to be. Now, what do you think of that? They want to be. In just a few moments, I will dramatize for you how a person goes insane. Now, when I say they want to be, I don't mean to suggest it's conscious. A woman doesn't sit down on a Monday morning and say, I think today I'll go crazy. It doesn't happen quite that way. But will you remember this, please? No one is born insane. You do not inherit insanity. The most you can ever inherit are pretty peculiar parents. But of course, then your chances are much better. Now, before I go into the dramatization, I wonder if I might talk with you for just a moment about a little adjustment that will ring a very familiar note to every one of you sitting here this evening. Nervous breakdown. Did your mother have one? Your brother? Your son? Your husband? Your father? Your wife? Perhaps even you had one. Or maybe you're thinking of having one. When the season is over. Nervous breakdown, we all know what it is. Really. Did you know that there is no such thing as a nervous breakdown? The nerves never break down. I have a nervous breakdown. You do? Show me the nerve that broke down, please. Where is it? Which nerve? Do you know what human beings do? They take their fears. Fear of death, fear of old age, fear of failure, fear of being found out, fear of being a mother, fear of being a father. Fear, fear, fear. They take these fears and they turn it into a nervous stomach, a weak heart, headaches, tiredness. I'm always tired. I sleep 24 hours a day, I'm still tired. Why, today alone, thousands were x-rayed for aches and pains that you will never see on any x-ray. Never. Because it's in the emotions. I didn't say it doesn't hurt. Of course it hurts. And some people complain to their doctors so well that it isn't hard to convince the average doctor, especially in hard times. And you would be amazed if you knew how many organs you can lose that way, too. Don't you know these people who run from one doctor after another? In New York, one girl had a sore throat. She decided she'd go to see a big throat specialist. She heard he examined big throats. She came to the office, rang the bell. The nurse said, yes. She said, I'd like to see the doctor, please. I've got a sore throat. The nurse said, please go in the other room and remove all your clothes. So I came to have my throat sprayed, not my pants pressed. The nurse said, I'm very sorry. The doctor insists on seeing all patients with their clothes off. She says, well, if I must, I must. She went into the room, took off all her clothes. She's sitting next to another girl, barefoot, up to her neck. She says, how do you like that? Some system, huh? A sore throat, I'm going to take off all my clothes. The other girl said, what are you complaining about? I came in to pay a bill. You thought it was going to be dirty, didn't you? A few years ago, I examined a girl that would be very hard to forget. Oh, not that her case was unforgettable. It was her face. I'd never seen a human being with a face so indescribably beautiful. She was 21 years of age, desperately in love with a young, poor sailor that she wanted to marry. But Mama had other plans. Mama wanted her great beauty to marry a very prominent, wealthy man. Of course, Mama didn't want her to marry him for his money, but she didn't know how else to get it. Well, they argued and argued and argued until one day Mama fainted. That did it. Being a very devoted daughter, she broke off her engagement with the sailor, agreed to marry the other man. The wedding was held at New York's Waldorf Astoria. What a wedding it was. The bride was gorgeous. As she marched down the aisle to the altar, 10 feet before the altar, she fell to the ground, paralyzed from the hips down, and was carried out in a stretcher. If you wish, you may call that a nervous breakdown. But not one single nerve broke down. And no x-ray in this wide world will ever show you the paralysis. Oh, she's paralyzed, all right. She isn't faking. This is her unconscious, neurotic adjustment, if you please. And we all show it, from headaches to tiredness. Did you ever notice how tired you get whenever you've got something unpleasant to do? If your wife should say to you, come inside and help me clean up the house. You say, oh, am I sleepy? Oh, I've got to lie down for 3 months. Now, this is called psychoneurosis. And as I said, we all show it. It's a question of degree. From headaches to paralysis. It's only a question of degree. Now, there's another adjustment that's much worse. It's called psychosis, better known popularly as insanity. Now, I promised you I would show you how a person goes insane. Ladies and gentlemen, as you sit here tonight, there's a girl named Mary who stands on a ward in a mental hospital in New York City. I'm hundreds of miles away, and yet, at this instant, I know exactly what Mary is doing. I don't have to be there. I know what she's doing. This is the way Mary is standing right now. Motionless, cringing, rigid. This is the way Mary has been standing for the past 19 years. And in those 19 years, she hasn't uttered one single word, nor has she even eaten a single thing. She's fed through a tube, or she dies. Mary never cries. Smack her, pinch her, hurt her. Not one tear will you get. Ever. Mary also never laughs. I dare you to make her do either one. Well, I have a little question for you. Would you tell me, please, how did Mary get like this? Didn't I just finish saying no one is born that way? Don't you think Mary was a little girl who jumped rope in a schoolyard? Didn't Papa buy her a doll and carriage for her 10th Christmas? Why, certainly. That's Mary's story, like any little girl's story. Well then, how did Mary get like this? To know the answer to that, you must take a very deep look in here and in here. Then you would see that this, for Mary, is an adjustment. This an adjustment? How? My sweetheart left me. I've been hurt. How will I ever find another sweetheart? Who would ever love a homely girl like me? Even my own parents don't love me as much as they love my other sister. She's so pretty. My father laughs at me. He calls me stupid. I'm not stupid. I'm afraid. I'm afraid to talk to people. I'm afraid they'll laugh at me. I wish I could run away. Someplace where no one could ever hurt me again. Yes, that's what I'll do. I'll run away. I'll go where I'll never love anyone else again. So no one can hurt me again. I leave. And there you have it. In her fear of losing love, being laughed at, failing, Mary commits emotional suicide. Now, Ernest Hemingway can blow his brains out and kill himself physically. Mary has killed herself emotionally. Both are equally dead. Do you know how many people stand like Mary right now, tonight? More than there are graduates in all the colleges and universities of America put together. That's how many. And do you know what hurts? This is all avoidable if we would only learn how to face, solve, and adjust to life problems without going to pieces. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is called mental hygiene. And mental hygiene is something you learn. You're not born with it. You learn it. Yet what are the high schools of America so busy teaching? Plain geometry, trigonometry, and all the other junk that you never even need to get inside a mental hospital at all. If anything, the plane geometry helps to push you in a little faster. Why don't they teach us how to overcome worry, how to prevent ulcers, how to get a good discount? Well, don't you think that's more important? Here's what I mean by mental hygiene. A salesman was driving his car along New York's Lower East Side. He happened to knock over a little old Jewish lady. He pulled up his brakes, stuck his head out the window and said, "Watch out!" She said, "What's the matter? Are you coming back?" Let me show you my favorite illustration of mental hygiene. It's my favorite only because it's so simple. Here, watch this. Here are two women. They lose a sweetheart. Same problem, yes? One shoots herself, the other one looks around for another sweetheart. I don't know how many of you here this evening are so romantic that you think there's a one and only for you in this world. You're my one and only schmo. What nonsense! There are bigger and better schmoes around. There's no one and only for anyone in this world, and any psychologist will tell you that you can be happy with thousands. Not at the same time, of course, you understand that. I don't want to start you off on a project over here. Look, there's no one and only for anyone. Don't let a broken love affair break you up. One lady, when her husband died, she had engraved on his tombstone, "My light has gone out." A few years later, she was about to remarry, so she went to the bishop and said, "Bishop, don't you think I should erase it?" He said, "No, no, no. Just right underneath, I have struck another match." Now, when you go home tonight, and if your family or friends should ask you, "What did the speaker speak about at the dinner last night?" What did he speak about? He spoke about mental hygiene. Mental hygiene? What's that? What's that? Could you tell them? In case you can't, here is the finest definition of mental hygiene I've ever seen. I didn't see it in a psychiatry book. I saw it on a menu in a restaurant. And this is what it says. As you ramble on through life, brother, whatever be your goal, keep your eye upon the donut and not upon the hole. It means be a little optimistic. For heaven's sake, if a man comes home and says to his wife, "I lost my job." It's, "Well, so what? You'll find another job." "I don't think I'll ever find another job." "All right, you've convinced me. Let's turn on the gas." Speaking of optimists, I know a man who's really an optimist. He's 82 years old, just got married, and started looking for a new house near a school. Now, he's sure to be a success, don't you think? A lady walked up to me after my talk one night. She said, "Dr. Banks, I've listened very carefully to every word you've said. I'd like you to show me how I can become permanently well-adjusted." I said, "In cemeteries, they're permanently well-adjusted." May I share a little slogan with you that I've stolen from a Wisconsin dairy? On every one of their milk bottles, here's what they've printed. "Our cows are not contented. They are anxious to do better." Now, I hope that you're not too confused on the difference between a neurotic and a psychotic. It will help you remember it if I tell you that the neurotic is the type of person who is always building dream castles in the air. The psychotic is the one who moves in. And the psychiatrist collects the rent. By the way, do you know the difference between a psychiatrist and a proctologist? You know what a proctologist is? He's a medical specialist who deals exclusively with the disorders of the rear, a sort of rear admiral of medicine. I mention it to you because I want to tell you about a psychiatrist and a proctologist who went into practice together. You're beginning to notice the possibilities, aren't you? They wanted to print up a little card that would very quickly and simply tell what they did. One of them said, "Why don't we just say nuts and butts?" See, that's simple, isn't it? The other one said, "Well, it's simple, but it's not dignified." And he thought a while. He said, "How about rears and queers?" Well, that didn't pass either. You know what they settled for? Odds and ends. let me ask you a little question. Answer this question to yourselves, please, not out loud. How many of you believe that you are normal? Are you normal if you talk to yourself? Yes, so long as you know that it's you that's doing the talking. You're not crazy if you talk to yourself, only if you listen. Now, what is the difference between normal and abnormal? What is it the insane do that you don't do? Not a blessed thing. The only difference between normal and abnormal is not what you do, it's how much you do and when. For example, aren't there some mornings you get up and feel walked into a psychiatrist's office, sat down very quietly, took a cigarette out of his pocket, opened up the cigarette, took the tobacco, and stuffed the tobacco into his nose. The psychiatrist looked at him. He said, "Oh, I see you need my help." He said, "Yeah, you got a match?" Did you ever know anyone who talks like this? They're all against me. They hate me. They're trying to get rid of me. Now, you're dealing with a case of paranoia, delusions of persecution, and the mental hospitals are clogged with these people. And yet every one of you here this evening is just a little bit paranoid, just a wee bit. Ask any man here about his mother-in-law. Here's what I mean by paranoia. A lady went to the racetrack. While she was waiting for the race to begin, she tapped the fellow on the shoulder. She said, "Could you lend me a safety pin, please?" "I'm sorry, I don't have one." "Have you a safety pin, please?" "No, I'm sorry." Suddenly, over the loudspeaker, she heard, "They're off!" And she fainted. Don't explain it to him. It won't help at all. Now, I know that all of you have had physical examinations. Some of you may take one regularly each year on your birthday. I wonder if you've ever had a mental examination. Because if you haven't, ladies and gentlemen, with my compliments right now, here is a completely free psychiatric examination. I'm about to ask you 10 tiny questions, the answers to which will show how well adjusted you are. They will show whether or not you know how to live with yourself. Not how to live by yourself, but something much more important, how to live with yourself. For unless you know how to live with yourself, forget it. No one else will ever be able to live with you. By the way, these 10 points are the soundest principles of mental hygiene I know. If you will use them as you leave tonight, I'll make you an ironclad guarantee. You will never have a nervous breakdown. Never. Ready? Let's go. 1. The very first thing a doctor does when he comes to see a patient is to take his temperature. He knows the higher the thermometer, the higher the disease process. Well, the psychiatrist has a thermometer too. It isn't made of glass. It comes in the form of a little question. And any time that you wish to take someone's personality temperature quickly, ask them this question. Say, "Tell me, are you happy?" If they say happy, "I'm miserable, miserable," then you will have the first and the most important symptom of poor adjustment. Now, what is happiness? What store do you go to and say, "Rack me up $10 worth of happiness. Throw in an extra quart for next month"? Happiness is a byproduct. It is the result of effective life adjustment. Where do you buy goodwill in a business? It's a byproduct. Happiness isn't a station you arrive at. It's a manner of traveling. Some people think they'll find it through love, through children, through marriage. I'm thinking of 2 men who should have been at work at the bank. They decided to go golfing at the country club on a lovely sunny day. They were about to tee off, and they noticed 2 ladies ahead of them. One said, "Joe, run up and ask those 2 ladies if they'd let us tee off first so we can get back to the bank." And Joe said, "Okay." Went over to the 2 ladies, and he came back. He said, "Bill, I'm so sorry. I can't ask them because this is the most embarrassing situation." He said, "Why?" He said, "One of them happens to be my wife, and the other one is the woman I'm having a love affair with." He said, "Joe, don't say another word. I understand completely. I'll ask them." And he went over to the 2 ladies, and when he came back, he smiled, and he said, "You know, Joe, it's a small world." Do you have zest for living? At any age, are you interested in love, play, learning more? Or you say, Fish Posh, I know everything. I'll sit home and watch television. You'll get to be as smart as Howdy Doody. I can show you people at 80 and 90 years of age who grow younger every day. And I can show you some at 18 and 19 who age every minute. I never will forget one man. As he left my office, he turned to me, he said, "Oh, I wish I had gone to college." I said, "Why don't you go?" He said, "I'm 35 years old. I'm married. It'll take me 10 years to go to college at night." I said, "Tell me, how old will you be in 10 years if you go?" He said, "I'll be 45. And I said, "And how old will you be in 10 years if you don't go?" He said, 45. How come the same? Next time you want to do something, you say, "Oh, I'm too old. It takes too long." Ask yourself, how old will I be if I don't do it? And if you get a younger answer, please phone me immediately. I never talk about age. I don't think at once of one of the most respected members of a small New Jersey community. It happens to be a 92-year-old rabbi. When that rabbi walks down the street, people bow low to him. He hasn't missed one meeting of the local Rotary Club in over 50 years. Now, what do you think of that for an attendance record? Until one day, the rabbi just disappeared into thin air. Everybody said, "Whatever happened to the rabbi?" Heaven only knows. A month later, at a Rotary luncheon, the rabbi calmly walked in and took his usual place. The president hit the gong, stopped the meeting, said, "Rabbi, for heaven's sakes, where have you been all month?" The rabbi said, "What a crazy world. What a crazy world." He said, "The whole month I'm sitting in jail." He says, "In jail? You in jail? You don't harm anyone. What happened?" He said, "I decided to go to New York. I went to Radio City. Just as I bought my ticket and was going in the door, a beautiful girl comes up to me with a policeman. She points at me and says, 'He did it.' He said, 'Tell you the truth, I was so proud I pleaded guilty.'" The third point, are you socially adjusted? Do you like being with others, sharing with others? I'm going to give you the first symptom of the most vicious mental sickness known to man. It is this: a loss of interest. That's all. A loss of interest. There you have the symptom of one of the most vicious, creeping mental sicknesses. Because to be well-adjusted means that you are interested in yourself, in others, being with others, sharing with others, seeing the other fellow's point of view. You know what I mean by point of view? A minister had just finished giving a very inspiring sermon on a Sunday morning. One of the parishioners came back and said, "Reverend, that's a damn fine talk you gave this morning." I beg your pardon? I said, "That's a damn fine talk you gave this morning." He says, "Don't you think those words are a bit strong to be using in church?" "Well, I think it was such a fine talk, I put a $100 bill in the collection plate." "Oh, thank you very much," said the Reverend. "It takes a hell of a lot of money to run a church." Are you ready for the fourth point? Do you have unity and balance? What is unity? Let me show you the opposite. Here's a woman who's on a reducing diet. Suddenly she served ice cream with whipped cream and some sauce. So she starts eating it and says, "Oh, am I gaining weight? Oh." And she eats it and worries. Now, if you're going to do something and worry, don't do it. If you're going to do it, enjoy it. One fellow said to a girl, "So help me, I'll kiss you." She said, "So kiss me, I'll help you." Now, she had unity. Balance means that you don't wrap your life around one thing. Your mother, your father, your wife, your husband, your child, your job, any one thing. Because if you do, ladies and gentlemen, do you realize what you're doing? Watch. You're building your whole personality on one single support. How would you like to live in a house built on one support? If you ever lose it, may God have mercy on you. That's all you have. If you have many supports, many interests, you lose one or two, you don't go to pieces. Balance is just as important to human life as it is to a business or building. The fifth point, can you live with each problem in your life as it arises? Oh, the people who sit and worry, oh, what a mistake I made 10 years ago, what a mistake. I should have given that dress back to Goldwater. Or they worry about the future. Maybe there'll be a depression, a war. Maybe I won't get married. Maybe my son will get married before I do. Just wanted to see if you're listening, that's all. Maybe. Now tell me, of all the things that you worried about last year, how many of them came true? There's a little saying, I'm an old man and have had many troubles, most of which have never happened. When their uncle died, all the relatives ran to the lawyer's office. They said, quick, open the will. The lawyer opened the will, and this is what it said. Being of sound mind, I spent all my money while I was alive. Now, the sixth point is very important in psychiatry. Do you have insight into your own conduct? I asked my students, what's the opposite of insight? They said outside. In a way, they're right. Insight means you know the real underlying reasons for what you do. Not the fancy ones you may give others, the real ones. What does a psychiatrist do for you? People always ask me that. One woman said to me, why does he always make you lie down on a couch? I know a doctor who says, I don't have a couch. I've got a double bed. I like to lie down too. Now, he's a very well-balanced doctor. You know who it is? Me. It will surprise you, but there's no psychiatrist in the world who can ever cure anyone. All he can ever do is to help you to help yourself. If you won't do that, well, then you are doomed. A broken finger will get better without your cooperation, but not a broken personality. Do you know how a nervous stomach is cured? Not with mineral oil. It's cured when you have insight, when you know it's caused by fear, and when you attack that fear, not a moment before. Yet there are none so blind as those who will not see. Some people just don't want to see. A professor wanted to show his students what alcohol can do to the body. He placed a worm into a glass of water, and the worm just crawled right out. Then he threw the worm into a glass of alcohol, and it was instantly killed. He said, what's the moral? One student said, I see if you drink alcohol, you never have worms. I was speaking to a Catholic seminary some months ago, all priests in the audience, and I told them that story about the worm in the water. And when I finished, the bishop came up to me and said, I'm going to give you a story that illustrates your point a bit more strongly. And this is the story the bishop gave me. A man came to his priest, and he says, Father, what causes arthritis? The priest said, what causes arthritis? Drinking, running around with women, keeping late hours. Why do you ask? He says, no reason, Father. It just says here in the paper the Pope has arthritis. The seventh point. Do you have a confidential relationship with some other person? Every human being needs someone to whom he can talk his heart out to honestly, freely, without being double-crossed. Some people need someone so badly they even get married to get it. And that's the one they start to lie to. Isn't that irony? Haven't you ever gone on a train out of town where a stranger will sit next to you and soon tell you things he wouldn't dare tell his best friend? That's because he knows you'll never see him again. You can't double-cross him, and he feels better. On the New York-Chicago train, a big burly Irishman sat down next to a little man. He said, what kind of work do you do, sir? Here's what work I do. I'm in cloaks and suits 30 years. A big firm in New York. The firm name is Goldberg and O'Brien. You ever heard of it? He says, Goldberg and O'Brien, working together in harmony. Ah, that's the American way. What a surprise. What a surprise. They got a bigger surprise for you. I'm O'Brien. Which leads me to the 8th point. Do you have a sense of the ridiculous? Can you laugh loud and long at what the world does to you? Most of all, can you laugh at yourself? Can you look in the mirror and say, oh, what a little show-off I am, but I'm cute. Laughter is the sunshine of the soul. Do you know what I think of as I stand here and look at you? I look to see who laughs and who doesn't. I think this one needs treatment badly, this one doesn't. Oh, don't worry, I picked out a few good cases here tonight, too. Mostly in this section right in here. Now, I hope that you never get so tired, so old, so hardened in the arteries, so prissy, so self-important, that you forget how to laugh easily and quickly, because at that moment, whether you know it or not, you're dead. You know, whenever I get to feel just a little too important, I can't help thinking of a patient who stands on a ward in a mental hospital, very grand. The psychiatrist walked by one day and said, who do you think you are? I, sir, am Napoleon. Really? Who told you you were Napoleon? God told me, when a voice came from the next bed. I did not! You see, there's always someone who feels more important. By the way, do you know that while you laugh, you can't get ulcers? Of course, some of you are here too late. That's the trouble. Well, I'm going to give you a little hint that you can walk out the doors with that will prevent ulcers, give you a happier marriage, and you'll also live longer. What a hint this is. I almost feel like God when I give it. I need treatment, too. I did my internship at Bellevue Hospital, very famous hospital. One day while I was walking through the wards, one of the patients, a woman, rushed up to me, said, you know, we like you better than the other doctors. I said, really? Why? Because you're more like one of us. Well, I see that you agree, too. Here's the hint. This hint happens to be the most important chemical law in the universe. And I am ashamed to tell you that I do not know of one single school, medical school, college, liberal arts college, any school in America that teaches it. Nonetheless, it is still the most important chemical law in the universe. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is it. Did you know that the human body, your body, can never sprout an ulcer or be angry and laugh at the same time? It is chemically, physically, mechanically impossible. As if God has said, to ye who laugh, no ulcers, no anger. You don't realize what a hint you've just received. If your husband or your wife is angry with you and you want to snap them out of it quickly, it's so easy. Perform a little chemical experiment. Make them laugh. Do this. Or put your hands up to your nose. Anything you like. Of course, don't throw him down the steps so he breaks a leg and then you do this. You've got to use good taste. Of all the things we ever learn, the most important one is how to laugh, which is learned. I can't help thinking, too, of a teacher in an elementary school in Brooklyn, the 6th grade. Biggest sourpuss you ever saw. She was writing on the board one day. She happened to raise up very high, and one of her garters showed. A little boy in the back went, ha ha! He was one of the more intelligent. The teacher said, and what are you laughing at? He said, teacher, I just saw your garter. Get your books and leave this room at once. And don't you come back to this class for 2 days. She went back to write on the board again. Another little boy in the back went, She said, and what are you laughing at? He said, teacher, I just saw both garters. Well, you just take your books, leave this room immediately, and don't you come back to this class for 3 weeks. She went back, she dropped the eraser. She bent over to pick up the eraser. A little boy in the back jumped up and started to run out. Said, just a moment. Where do you think you're going? He said, teacher, I see where my school days are over. He was better adjusted than the teacher. The 9th point, are you engaged in satisfying work? Poor fellow, he broke down. He overworked himself. What nonsense. No one ever broke down from overwork in this world, and no one ever will. You break down, ladies and gentlemen, from over-worry. You work 10 minutes only with hate or fear in your heart. Brother, you're overworked. And how? You work all day at something you love, without tension or tears. You'll go home pretty tired, but you won't break down. I just flew into Phoenix from New York by plane, which is the best way to fly. And during the past several months, I have flown to Australia, New Zealand, England, all over America. Tomorrow, I have to fly out to speak in Minneapolis and Bemidji and Moorhead. And people say to me, you're going to break down. You run around too much. No, I will not break down. Because being here tonight is for me an adjustment too. I really always wanted to be an actor. But my mother wanted me to be a doctor. So I became a doctor, and now I'm an actor. One man said to me, Dr. Banks, I know a lady who also wanted her son to be a doctor, but he wanted to be a bum. Now they're both happy. He's a bum doctor. The 10th and the last point is this. Do you know how to worry effectively? There's only one thing to do when you're worried, and this is it. Do something active about the cause of your worry. Are you worried about your health? Well, then go to a doctor. Do you have an emotional problem? Go to a psychiatrist. A psychiatrist? Yes, a psychiatrist. I picked up my phone the other day, and the voice said, hello? I said, hello. He said, is this the crazy doctor? I said, yes. He said, I want to make an appointment to see you. How much do you charge? I said, $20. He said, I'm not that crazy. After dealing with mental patients for quite a number of years, it is always a thrilling thing for me to learn each day anew that the only difference between a happy person and a broken soul is never the problems. That's just about the same for all of us. It's the attitude towards the problems that makes us what we are. A mother had 2 twin boys, 6 years of age, identical twins. They had the same freckle in the same spot, but you'd never have trouble telling them apart, because one of them was a cheerful little optimist. Whenever you'd look at him, he'd smile at you. The other one was a pessimist of the worst order. Mama took them both by the hands one day, off to the psychiatrist. She said, Doctor, I don't want much, really I don't. Balance them up a little bit. One a little more and one a little less. He said, well, listen carefully, I'll tell you how to do it. When their birthday rolls around, buy that little pessimist of yours a room full of toys. Fill the room with more toys than he's ever seen before. He says, what shall I get for the optimist? Well, just get him a great big box of manure. See, what you say? What? Madam, that's what I said. Toys for the pessimist, manure for the optimist. That'll balance him up. Mama did exactly as the doctor ordered. Then she stuck her head into each room to see how they were getting along. There in that room with all those lovely toys sat that little pessimist. Says, just look at this bunch of junk toys. I don't like them. The boy next door has better toys. Then she went to the other room. And there was that little optimist, digging for all the manure. He said, you can't fool me. Where there's manure, there must be a pony. If you ever stop to think about your life, you will find that your life is just like climbing a slippery hill. You climb, you slip, you climb. We all slip. We all have sorrow, frustration, failure. But the measure of you as a person is, what do you do when you slip? Do you pick yourself up and try to go just a wee bit higher on the hill? Or do you lie there and whine and have a nervous breakdown? I hope you'll never forget, never, that happiness is just like chasing a butterfly. The more you chase it and chase it and chase it directly, then it will always just elude you. But if you sit down quietly, turn your thoughts to other things, then the butterfly comes and softly sits on your shoulder. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.